So The Inheritors, William Golding's novel about the last tribe of Neanderthals in the dawn of human existence as Magnon, filet mignon. The novel shows the innocence of the more primitive species and the savagery of the new inheritors to the earth in a great epic tale of adventure and swashbuckling. And I didn't really like it. It wasn't that good. Anyway, this is not a critique on the novel. This is an examination of the scientific evidence that supports and also denies some of Golding's claims in the novel. This includes his study of tribes and how they act, ritualistic sacrifice, incest, and many other cool things like that. But let's start from the beginning. The Inheritors is one of William Golding's most controversial novels because basically he went against everything that science and scientists and historians had been saying for hundreds of years. Golding was basically on a quest to smash your idols and burn their effigies, essentially. Because for years, the Neanderthal was seen as a savage creature, one without morals or gods, or a moral compass that could teach them right from wrong. One of the people that William Golding was most critical of was H.G. Wells, who wrote a highly acclaimed novel called The Outline of History, which described the Neanderthal as, again, savage and kind of ugly, and with the low brow and the ape-like features and the hair. They were essentially seen as brutal creatures. Golding was even quoted as saying that the Neanderthal could very well be the basis of the mythological bad man. So, every ogre, every giant cyclops can basically be diverted from the Neanderthal. So Golding never thought these claims were true, or at least he never thought that they had substantial evidence to support them. He saw the Neanderthals as more of an innocent species that were kind of naive and were actually brutalized and probably genocidally wiped out by the new Homo sapiens. Golding even stated that as far back as we can go in history, we find that the two signs of man are a capacity to kill and a belief in God. And of course, these Neanderthals did not have a belief in God, and like portrayed in the novel, these Neanderthals didn't necessarily kill. Mostly they scavenged for berries and other shoots and whatnot. And when they did eat meat, it was usually from a kill of another animal, like a big cat or hyenas. So is this portrayal of naivete accurate? Well, in some ways, yes, and in other ways, not exactly. As was discussed in Dr. Cogill's lectures, the Neanderthals did take care of one another in certain ways, such as if a Neanderthal needed like a hand cut off. In any other species or any other animal, essentially if a limb gets cut off, that is an immediate road to death town because they would bleed to death. But fossil records show that bone was healing, and that is a sign that something or someone took care of these Neanderthals in order for them to survive such a traumatic event. But again, we're talking about prehistoric times. So as again described in Dr. Cogill's lectures, life was really tough for the Neanderthal. There were many diseases that afflicted them. Also, the Neanderthals were not shy in their desire for the consumption of other Neanderthals. Bone marrow being very tasty, meat being rich in protein, how can you blame them? I don't know why I said that. There are many fossils and bones of Neanderthals showing abrasions and giant holes in the cranium that would suggest large contusions and blows that were created by weapons from maybe another Neanderthal or a Cro-Magnon, new humans, Homo sapiens. So William Golding's rose-tinted goggles that suggested that the Neanderthals were a peace-loving and beautiful society that was brutally murdered and taken off the face of the earth by these new inheritors that didn't deserve it because they were evil is not exactly true. But certain evidence can suggest that they were in some ways caring and nurturing to each other, maybe in a smaller group, in a clan-sized group, but maybe not to everyone else around them. I mean, look at that face. I mean, yeah, that, if you walked into that guy's cave, he probably wouldn't be too happy. I'm relocating. Hey! I relocated. Anyway, let's talk about incest. Now, incest is not directly addressed in the novel, but it is hinted at the end when the new one, the baby of Nil and Ha, was kidnapped by the new humans, by the Homo sapiens. And they kidnap her because basically they're enamored by her. They're terrified of her, but they're also really attracted to her in different ways. Now, what they do with the baby is unknown. All we know is that they kidnapped her and they took off with her after killing everyone else. Spoilers, sorry. Though Golding doesn't address inbreeding or incestuous behavior directly, there is evidence to support that interbreeding happened. So Mike Beacon, a professor at Sheffield Hallam University, wrote an article called Ingalls, Neanderthals, and the Origin of the Family. He states that about 45,000 years ago, a great migration out of Africa, and basically all humans that existed outside of Africa came from this exodus. So when studying DNA, scientists find that humans still contain traces of Neanderthal DNA. African countries, there's a lot less. There's about 1 to 4%. But in some Eastern European countries and other eastward territories, there can be seen of upwards of 10% of DNA that is shared with Neanderthals. And that's really interesting because basically scientists know because of this that Neanderthals and early human Homo sapiens did interbreed. Now, at what point, they don't really know, but it did happen, and that's why this DNA can be found in many different people across the world. Now, these percentages are still very small. 10% is not that high. And many scientists believe that that is because a lot of the offspring of these interbred people were stillbirths, and they didn't live very long. So very few actually survived birth and carried on to have more offspring. But the fact stands that they did interbreed. In Sarah Hepner's scholarly article, evaluating the finds of a recent discovery of humanoid bones suggesting the coexistence of mating between Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthals, she has evidence that even though they might have interbred at some point, they did little to influence each other when it came to lifestyle, evolution in terms of advancements in technology and weaponry and the like. So basically, when the Homo sapiens showed up, they were using ivory arrows and boats and all sorts of cool stuff, while the Neanderthals were still using stones, throwing rocks, and etc. So yeah, most scientists and anthropologists believe that at some point the Neanderthals and the pro-filet mignons did indeed interbreed, which is interesting. So the Neanderthal group that we see in the Inheritors uses a term called group polarization, which basically means that the individual identity of each Neanderthal is less important than the groups. Sometimes in tribes this resulted in cannibalism and or sacrificing members of the clan or tribe in order to create great from bad or to appease some sort of spirit. Group polarization does not mean that this tribe is weak or strong, but strong tribes, such as we see in the Homo sapiens, usually showed signs of strong leadership, which also kind of means dictatorships. Now, this is actually considered healthy among tribes and clans because a clan becomes stronger and grows when political allegiances are changed, power changes hands, but the devotion is still there for the clan. So in the terms of the Neanderthals, this devotion to group polarization may actually have been their downfall because they didn't see a need to grow. There wasn't a desire for a change of hands in power because the roots were still there and they worked for them. But in the terms of the new humans, they grew, they moved around, they were innovative, and they survived because of it.